Hi everyone, and welcome to my top tips for the IELTS listening test. My name is Ben Prince, and I'm a Cambridge qualified IELTS teacher. So, before we get into the tips, what is the IELTS listening test? The listening test is approximately 30 minutes long. You will listen to 4 recordings and answer 10 questions on each for a total of 40 questions. You need to get 23 correct for a band 6, 30 for a band 7, and 35 for a band 8. The 4 recordings are: the first one, an everyday conversation between 2 people. For example, a telephone conversation between a customer and a company. The second recording is one person talking about a general, everyday social topic. So, for example, a tour guide talking about a museum. The third recording is a conversation in an academic context between 2 or more people. For example, a college tutor talking to 2 students about an essay assignment. And the fourth is a lecture from one person on a topic of general academic interest. So, for example, it could be somebody talking about or giving a lecture on the history of writing. So let's get into the tips. My first tip is listen to different English accents. The IELTS is an international test of English, and the listening section uses people from different English-speaking countries. They are from, usually, the United States, Canada, Britain, and Australia. Watch news channels on YouTube from different countries. For example, CTV News from Canada, the BBC from Britain, CNN from the US, and ABC from Australia. I've included some links in the description below this video. Also, listen to podcasts. If you have a streaming service like Netflix, watch movies and shows from different English-speaking countries. Tip number 2. Learn the difference between British and American vocabulary. Now, the vocabulary in Britain and America is 99% the same. But there are some words you might need to know from one country or the other in order to be able to understand the speaker. So, for example, what the British call a lorry, the Americans call a truck. What the British call petrol, the Americans will call gasoline. What the British call a tap, the Americans will call a faucet. What the British call autumn, the Americans will say fall. And when the British say aeroplane, the Americans will say airplane. Now, I've put a link in the description below to a very useful web page which lists the main differences in British and American vocabulary. Tip number 3, and one of the most important. Read the instructions. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. For some question types, there will be instructions for the maximum number of words you can use in your answer. So, for instance, it might say, write 1 word only for each answer. So obviously don't write more than 1 word. Or maybe write no more than 2 words, or 2 words and or a number. Or write no more than 3 words and or a number. Remember the instructions when you're writing your answer. Number 4. Use correct spelling. Any spelling mistake will be marked as incorrect. You can, however, use either Standard English or American English spelling. So, for example, colour, with or without a U. Litre, spelt E-R or R-E at the end. Or specialise, spelt with a Z or Z, or with an S. Okay, so tip number 5, predicting the answer. Before each recording, you are given some time to look through the questions. The recording will say something like, before the recording starts, you now have time to look through questions 1 to 5. You will then have around 20 seconds before the recording starts. Use this time to predict the type of answer you are looking for. For example, the man wants to buy a something car. Here, we are probably looking for an adjective that describes the type of car the man wants. Maybe a blue car, or a big car, or an economical car. Another example could be, the cost of the dinner is something dollars each. Here we are obviously looking for a number, $15, $10, $20, for example. Please note that the last recording is not split into 2 parts. For part 4, you will need to look at questions 1 to 10 together in one go. Okay, so now we come to tip number 6. Answer the questions as the recording is playing. The recording is played only once. You do not have an opportunity to listen to the recording a second time. The questions will be in the same order as the answers appear in the recording. So the answer to question 1 will be near the beginning, and the answer to question 10 will be near the end. You will be given some time at the end of each recording to check your answers. At this point, you should have already written your answers as the recording progressed. So use this time to check for any errors or spelling mistakes. Okay, my next tip is to learn the alphabet. Particularly in the first recording, the everyday conversation between 2 people, someone will spell out an unusual word, such as a family name or a street name in an address. So, for example, the first person could say, "My name is Robert Carlyle." The other person could ask them to spell that for them. And the first person will say, "Yes, it's C-A-R-L-Y-L-E." So learn how the letters of the alphabet are pronounced. A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. But remember, the last letter is Z in Standard English, but Z in American English. Tip number 8 is to listen for a correction. Again, particularly in the first recording, someone may make a mistake and correct themselves. For example, my telephone number is 516874. No, sorry, that's not right. It's 516847. They do this quite often in the first recording. I don't know whether it's to try and catch people out, but I guess it's to make sure you're really understanding the context of the conversation. But remember to listen out for it and don't be caught out. Tip number 9. Learn the pronunciation of numbers. This is especially important for numbers that sound very similar, like 60 and 16, 50 and 15, 17 and 70, 30 and 13. And finally, practice, practice, practice. If you only remember one thing from this video, this is the most important. I cannot stress enough that practice makes perfect. The more practice you get, the more you will improve. The more you will tune your ear to people speaking English, especially with different accents. And the more confident and relaxed you will be on test day. I've left a link in the description below to a website I use a lot with my students, with lots of practice tests that have a layout and format very similar to the actual IELTS computer-based test. Well, that's my top tips for the IELTS listening test, and thank you for watching. If you have any more tips, please leave us a comment. I will be posting regular videos to help you with your IELTS test, so hit the like button, subscribe and press the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. And last of all, good luck with your IELTS. I really hope you get the score you need to achieve your dreams.